Yeah, that's the beast.
But if I actually try to
Have a conversation.
I like her. A lot because
You didn't. Miss Hill, I thought you hated her. No, I really did. The way you acted
like
for her.
progressively
No.
moving further and further away from you.
You're
You like
so
join us over here in the middle.
You're like,
You were
I'm not
really
mad,
good.
like no pressure.
Oh, yeah, I know Miss House. He hated Miss House. He hated it.
You hate his house?
I mean, I didn't like her. I didn't like her teaching style. Her teaching style was too easy.
that makes it awesome.
No, but like right now, her capital is for children because based on how she talks.
Upcoming
Why did you like
deadlines
this
is on
house?
my agenda.
Yeah.
Cause she's too easy.
Alright, speaking of
Easy.
Alright guys, I wanna go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming. Long time no see. I feel like I haven't seen y'all as a group in forever.
2 weeks.
Yeah, at least. It feels even longer than that.
Or 3.
Schedules
For
are
Christmas
crazy.
break.
Oh, yeah, true.
I have a number of things that I want to go over and a number of things that I've put in Google Classroom that I want to show you. And we're kind of in the home stretch now, so we need to start talking in a really serious way about deadlines and what needs to happen next. So, you've got some Cornell notes that you're taking for me, but have Google Classroom up on your Chromebook, please. I'm going to put it up here, but I want you to be able to look at it with me and make sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing. And I need to think about what I want to show you first. Yeah, can I have them? I need to have
I have a wireless mouse, I just need the library.
If you want to see a lot of screens, click that one.
Right.
Yeah.
I will start with some of these things that I just recently put in here. And I'm actually gonna start with this right here. This is listed as an assignment. It says just remember all rough draft conferences with Mr. K, blah, blah, blah. Obviously the schedule got a little mixed up. Some of you I know have had them since grades went in, so I owe you grade change forms. Others of you know that you're having them this week, so make sure if you still need to have a rough draft writing conference, you do that this week, please. In the meantime though, whether you've had one with Mr. K or not, I want you to go to this link here. This is my calendar, this is my appointment page. Now I'm logged in, which is why you see all this extra stuff. When you go, you won't see all this extra stuff. You'll just see the boxes where it says History Day Writing, okay? I need you to identify, and like you notice, I had appointments yesterday, but nobody scheduled them. I had appointments today, but nobody scheduled them. And that's fine, because when I made these, this was before the snow day and everything else. But what you'll notice is like I'm not available the next 2 days at all. But if you go to the next week, I've got lots of times. If you go to the next week, I've got lots of times. But this date is it. It's just what you see here, okay? So February 8th is the last possible day. Now some of you have already scheduled them. Thank you very much for doing that. I've got some of you already blocked off. I need you to go ahead and schedule them now, please. I realize that, you know, keep in mind, just because you schedule a conference for February 7th today, doesn't mean your paper's ready today. It means it will be ready by February 7th. This does two things. One, it gives you a deadline to strive for, so that you know exactly when you've got to have it done. And two, it helps me plan my schedule. It's really frustrating for me when I don't know what's happening and day after day after day goes by and then all of a sudden everyone schedules for February the 8th. So go ahead and pick a slot, schedule your writing conference with me. If you're a website, obviously you're going to be showing me a website. Now I'm going to talk in greater detail about all the things you need to have ready for this second conference, so I'm going to go over that in just a second. Any questions about this? There is one other thing I need to say about this, I just realized. I have some before school times, I have some after school times, I have some during lunch times. If you choose to come one of the other times of the day that is during a class, most of you know this already because I say this every year, but for those of you that are new or that forget, you must get permission from your teacher first, then schedule it with me. Please don't schedule something with me and then go to your teacher and say, oh yeah, I'm not going to be in class today because I'm meeting with Miss A. They really hate that. It makes them hate you and me. And trust me, they come and tell me how much they hate me for that. Like, please don't do that to me. Ask them first, and then if they say, sure, you can miss class for that, then schedule it with me. Yeah.
So I picked the conference on the 7th at 3:30,
Okay.
but that's at the end of the day, so can I just be like at 3:45, like right after?
Assuming no one picks the one right after yours, I mean, yeah, that should work out fine. Yeah. Okay, the next thing that is in Google Classroom is your registration for the Midlands Regional Contest. I need everyone to go in and register themselves. Registration is different than it's been in the past, so none of you are gonna recognize what this looks like because it's a new system. I've already registered as a teacher, so when you go in to register, it's gonna ask you to choose your teacher. You're gonna choose me. Okay? Here's what it looks like. And I wanna just point out a few things about it.
Do you want us to do this now?
You can, you don't have to. But one of the things I wanna point out about it is that you can start it now and save it and come back to it. And I wanted to make sure everyone knew that, because registration is working differently this year. Here's what happens. On February 21st, now I've set your deadline for February 16th. I want you finished by February 16th. But History Day is going to lock their registration website February 21st at 4 p.m. Not at midnight, 4 p.m. So here's what that means. If you are doing a paper, you can go in and you can register yourself now, but when it is time to turn in that paper to the judges, you're gonna do it through the registration. And it has to be turned in by that 4 p.m. deadline when registration locks. Yes?
It's February 16th.
Yeah, so I would prefer you do it by February 16th, and then that way you're not worried about it. But technically, the deadline is the 21st.
Okay.
So you can register yourself now and have it all ready to go and set up, and then at the last minute, you can go and drop the PDF to your paper. If you want help doing that, to make sure you do it correctly, to make sure it's the PDF file that you want, et cetera, I'm happy to help with that, but this is different than what they've done in the past. Same is true for websites. If you're doing a website, you're gonna have to put the link to your website in that registration, and at 4 p.m. on the 21st, it locks you out. You can no longer edit your website or make any changes in that regard. So everything that you submit this year, you have to submit yourself through the website. You're not turning it in to me to submit to them for you. And this is really, really crucial, because if you recall, and I don't mean to be mean about this, but if you don't compete in Midlands contest, you cannot pass this course, regardless of what your grade is. If you don't register correctly and on time, you cannot compete in Midlands contest. So do you see how one little mistake could cause a travesty? Okay, I don't say that to scare you, I just want you to understand exactly what's expected of you. All right, Virginia, you had a question.
Can we put in our school emails or?
Yes, I would encourage you to put in your school email. You can put in a different email if you prefer, only if you're gonna remember to check it. Some of you don't check any of your emails, so I don't really care which one you use. Yes, you're guilty. Sophie, go ahead.
I forgot, I clicked register and I did that, but it's not giving me anything to join as a teacher or anything like that. It just says, I have the option to create a project.
All right, maybe it'll ask you after you create said project. I don't know, I haven't actually gone through this as a student, so that's part of the reason why I wanted y'all kind of playing with this so that you can ask me these types of questions. If you want to be working through the registration process now, because it's not going to lock you out now, it's just going to take some of your information to get started. Mm-hmm.
It says that the registration deadline is March.
I was the exact same thing. It says March.
But it says that it's on Monday, March 5th.
This says registration deadline Wednesday, March 21st at 4.
Okay, that's a typo. I'm going to have to email Angela and tell her. It's definitely February 21st.
Right, because it's happening on March 5th.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
that's why I was,
Yeah.
okay.
No, but that's good. She's going to want to know that.
Yeah.
And she's gonna be really happy that I told her before all of the angry parents call. Cause middle schoolers do History Day too, and you know how it is in middle school when like your parents are a lot more hands-on, they get pretty worked up about some of
So
this.
this is happening March 5th?
Correct. So you should have that date on your calendar too. March 5th, we are going to the library to compete. And I will give you a permission form soon.
It's at the library?
At the library this year.
Wait, which library?
Main branch now.
Assembly Street downtown.
Oh, you mean the big place? I've been there.
So is,
And
so
It's all
what are we
split
gonna do with our time? Well, I got books, never
Well,
mind.
You're gonna
It
read,
says
you're
on
gonna
the
do
grid, it says create a
homework.
new project, is
Never
do we
mind.
fill that out, or we wait till the paper's done?
I think you can start that process now,
Okay.
because you're not actually submitting it, you're just saying that you're going to create it.
So
Yeah.
if we
So
do
for
it
title, do
on
we
the
put
21st,
paper, or do we put,
you know,
For title, you're gonna wanna put the actual title of your paper.
okay,
I think you'll be able to edit that as you go
okay.
along. That's my,
If it's a website, will my display be an electrical outlet?
She can
No.
change, just put something there.
Well,
probably just do it.
no,
Just like, I don't know.
I'll find out for you,
Okay.
but I don't think so. This is good, guys, cause I can email Angela these questions.
And do we have to put a description?
I would, and for description, I would simply copy and paste your thesis statement.
But it says save and continue, do you think?
Go ahead and save and continue, I think you'll be able to edit it.
Okay.
I know you'll be able to edit it. What other questions do you have as you're looking at this registration thing? So just to kind of recap, February 21st is the ultimate deadline. I'm telling you to have it in by February 16th to save you from yourself, okay? And March 5th, we're all going downtown to the library
Yes.
to compete.
Actually, coincidence. March and February 21st are both Wednesdays.
Just so y'all know, they got a new Starbucks at the library. It's
Really?
better now.
It's good.
What?
It's better
The
now.
downtown one?
The one at
USC.
USC.
Oh, see, we're not going to.
We're not going to.
Oh, really?
We're going to
Going
the
to
one
the
downtown.
downtown public
When,
library.
Oh, that one.
There's
Oh.
Also,
When are we
there's no
going?
restaurants like
March.
within safe walking
March?
distance, so bring,
Yes, there is.
For what?
well, there is.
That's when we actually
Safe
compete.
walking
There's on the
Which
district,
person
on
in
the
a
Capitol
region has the
Hill.
best?
All right, I
paper,
will
best
investigate our
website,
lunch
all that
options.
stuff.
There's Which Witch is right there, you've
Yes,
got, there's.
Although-
It's right there.
Now wait, if y'all recall,
We walked.
you've had a few people coming by to keep going away again.
Will your display need an electrical outlet?
They're probably wondering why soccer practice was canceled.
No, it's-
What's happening? A few things. In the past, when we've had this at the library, if you recall, they kept us there and we had interviews all the way through till the awards ceremony. Then we had the awards ceremony and we didn't get to go to lunch until like 2 o'clock. So you may want to bring some snacks.
That happened?
Yes.
Wait,
Just do it.
hey,
Just do it.
Not last time, because last time y'all were at the museum, we were able to go buy lunch.
okay,
This was the time we were at the library several years ago.
okay.
Okay.
This is the only
Yes.
copy I have.
Are we taking a bus, or we just get on there?
I do not know the answer to that
If you
yet.
don't put anything there.
I am
they can't
hopeful that
exactly
between
see
Mr.
it.
K and I, we can drive you to avoid the cost of a bus, but I
And
may
also
have
it
to get
says
a
save
bus.
and continue. They'll tell you exactly.
Save and
when you
continue.
What does
end.
this mean, this isn't?
No.
Got it.
Dang it, Scott. See, exactly, you can't do it, I told you. Ha.
Why not?
Oh, I know.
You can tell her she's wrong.
Huh,
And if she's not wrong, you can tell her she's arrogant. It's whatever you want.
if a teacher, what do you put?
John can't see it, they
I
can
don't
be
know
there.
that.
No, you are the most one for complaining after.
Hello, how are you, person? Join us
What
closer.
did she get?
Everyone has abandoned this side of the room,
On
so
the
now
music,
we're,
Ethan, what do you get? Did
Oh,
you
that's
take it?
horrible, yeah.
Why'd you
Carson, I've got some very old Cornell notes for you to get back. I need you to take some new Cornell notes today and go sit next to somebody that can catch you up on what you've
They
missed
have
so
a
far.
combination like that.
You reckon I said the same?
They do have combinations like that.
They-
Absolutely.
all my friends
For
do.
international students. As my father's an administrator.
So we've talked about signing up for writing conferences. We've talked about registration. Use your thesis statement. For the description of your project, use your thesis statement. I'm stalling, so you guys can get your lives together.
It's prestige.
Oh, so I guess when you
College is
said
offer a full
electrical outlet, we have to bring our own extension cord, or is that what that means?
I think electrical outlet is predominantly for people that have exhibits that want to have like lights and sound as a part of their display, or people that have brief music during their performances. Websites typically I need to look back at the rule book, because the rule book says whether or not you have to have your own laptop or not, and I can't remember the answer to that. But we will find out. Alright, so once again guys, in Google Classroom, here's the link to sign up for a writing conference with me. Please do so ASAP. Here's the link for the Midlands registration. Go ahead and get started with that so you can let me know what questions you have. Here are some notes about footnotes. So, we haven't really talked a whole lot about this, and I want to talk a little bit about this. So we're going to talk about footnotes. And would you type in nhd.org for me, please? Thank you. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is a combination of things. All right, you two, you gotta listen. This is going to be important. A combination of things regarding what is expected from you for your second writing conference, the one that you're going to have with me. Like, what do you have to have with you to be ready for? And where can you find information to help you get ready for that? As far as what you need to have, when you come to your second writing conference with me, I want to see, and I'll start with paper, but I'll talk about website in a second, but I want to see your paper exactly as you imagine submitting it. That means with a title page, with all the pages of your paper, including all the footnotes, with an annotated bibliography, and I'll talk about that in a second. All of those pieces and parts in place. I would very much like for you to print it to bring to the writing conference. Now, if you really struggle getting access to a printer, I can help you when you get there. But it's ideal if you have it printed because we're going to write all over it. If you're doing a website, I want you to have a finished version of your website to show me. I want you to have your process paper with your annotated bibliography. And I don't recall whether or not the process paper requires a title page, but if it does, include that too.
The name of that CV off of title page as well.
Perfect, do a title page. I like it. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want us to print the annotated bibliography?
Yes, please. And like I said, if you don't have enough copies or pages or that's a struggle, and you can even email me ahead of time and say, hey, I'm coming for my writing conference this afternoon, will you print this for me? I'm happy to do that. Yes?
For websites, do you want the process paper annotated?
Yes, please. One of the reasons why I want all of this printed is to write on it. Another reason is because you'll be able to see where you have formatting errors that sometimes we don't see as well in Google Docs for some reason. Now, if you're sitting there going, what does my title page look like? What is an annotated bibliography? Who said anything about footnotes? Let me show you some things. This is nhd.org. Go here to the For Students tab. Go to Project Examples. Now, my expectation is that you've been going here all along. I'm not sure that's true for everybody. Under Project Examples, you can see all the different categories with their examples. If you're doing a paper, go to Papers, website, go to website. They have process papers as well, and I'll pull those up in a minute. It's just you three, right?
Yeah.
Are you still doing a website? All right. Remember, what does junior paper mean?
Middle school.
Middle school. So it's better to look at senior papers. So take a look at this. This is a second, I'm going to go to the third one. This is a second place senior paper. It shows you the title page, so you can see exactly what a title page ought to look like. Here's the paper. You can read it. I would encourage you to actually read the paper and get a sense for like how good it is and what types of things they say and how long it is, etc. But you can also see all of the footnotes in said paper. In your English classes, you have likely done what we call parenthetical citations, where you put the author's last name and the page number in parentheses. But in Chicago style and in history, we use footnotes. You're going to use footnotes, and I think I showed you already how to insert footnotes. Did I not?
You did.
You did? Okay, good.
I must have missed
Now,
it.
I wasn't.
and Elijah, I know you have a question about the repeat footnotes, and I'm going to go over that too. Yeah.
Do the footnotes need to be indented like that?
No, they don't. Good question. I do want to point out to you how many footnotes there are. This is something that is always surprising to students. There should be many, many footnotes, almost a third of every page of your paper, a third of the page, should be footnotes. Because if you have less than that, that means you're plagiarizing a whole lot of your paper, whether you realize it or not. Agreed?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm double checking with my history major here that has written more history.
You should, I mean, realistically, if the second to last sentence or last sentence of the paragraph isn't ending in a footnote, you're doing something wrong.
So note this, guys. Every single piece of information that goes into your paper should be cited from the source you took it from. I highly doubt you took any of these facts out of your head. You read it somewhere. Where'd you read it? Which book did you find it in? Which website did it come from? You need to give it a footnote. Now I'll talk again about how to do that in just a second. But I just wanted to show you what it looks like, what the quantity of footnotes look like, what the quantity of the paper looks like. This is what I'm wanting to see when you come for your second writing conference with me. I want to see this in its finished form, okay? And I'm scrolling. If you have an appendix, that should be included. I caution you on the use of an appendix. 1 or 2 pictures, maybe a map, maybe, might be relevant to your topic. In some cases, it won't be relevant at all. Some of you, in looking at your source sheets, you had a lot of pictures, and I wasn't really sure why, because those aren't really going into your paper. Now, websites are different, of course, and you can have an appendix, but notice that each picture has a long description about what is in the picture and why we're looking at it, as well as a citation. So yours should as well. I'm scrolling. And then here is the annotated bibliography. Now, for those of you that have not done one, you did source sheets. What ends up happening is that you take 3 pieces of information off of each source sheet, and they go together in an annotated bibliography. So you take your source citation, here it is, and then the answers to your 2 questions, just copy and paste them and stick them together in a little paragraph. That becomes your annotation. Okay? You split it up into primary sources first. They are in alphabetical order, depending on the first part of the citation. I'm going to scroll down so you can see when the student transitions to, okay, now we're in secondary sources. And again, we start over in alphabetical order, depending on what's in the citation. Notice that the citation sort of sits by itself, and then your little paragraph. Where are you getting this little paragraph?
You're typing it. From your source
The
sheet.
questions, your source sheet, the 2 questions you answered.
Oh, wait, so you just put them together and that's it?
Yep,
Wait, so you don't need to type anything?
correct.
Isn't God good?
That's why I had you do source sheets. You take your answer to the first question, you take your answer to the second question, and you stick them together. Questions?
So, you remember how I said that I wanted to do a consulted works page?
Yes.
That would just come after all of my secondary and primary sources, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've never had anyone do a consulted sources page, and I'm still hesitant on that. You and I need to talk more about what that's gonna look like, because I don't know the answer to that. Yes?
So for website, with footnotes within the website, I've looked at a couple of the examples.
Uh-huh.
One of the ones that I like, they have footnotes within, and then they have a separate page for research, which is where they have links to their annotated bibliography and process paper. And then there's a thing for endnotes, and it goes through the website, like the title
Okay.
of that particular page,
Yeah,
and the endnotes within that, and it has a footnote there. Does that work?
I think so. Absolutely.
Okay.
First of all, those of you doing websites, anything you see on these first and second place examples, I'm not gonna tell you not to do it that way, because obviously they won. So yes, that's acceptable, do it that way. But you do need to still cite with footnotes, just like you would in a paper. Your process paper will not have any footnotes, because that's just questions about your process. How'd you choose your topic, how'd you design your website, what challenges occurred, how'd you overcome those challenges, that type of thing. But you will want to also have a place on your website that takes you to the annotated bibliography as well. All right, so all of this is what I want to see at that second writing conference. And again, I don't expect it to be perfect, but that's a chance for us to fix it so that it is as close to perfect as we can get it. So, I wanted to show you, if you go home and you're like, I don't remember what she said about annotated bibliographies. Remember, we've got this video You can go back and literally watch what I said, okay? Or I want you to come to the History Day website and look at these examples. Now, notice these are examples from last year. You also have the year before, the year before that, the year before that. So if you're looking at a paper and you don't like that particular one, pick a different one. What you'll see is that the formatting is very much the same. Same is true of websites, of course. Elijah, to answer your question, Elijah asked me in an email a very specific question about footnotes. And the answer is right here on the second page of notes. And I wanted to point that out to you. This gets a little more detailed. Okay, some of you might not be ready for this. So those of you that have done this before have seen this before. When you do a footnote, the first time a source is mentioned, you use the full citation information. And they give you this example here. The author's name, the title, the page number. This is what's going in the footnote, okay? But thereafter, so anywhere else in your paper, you refer back to this same source. It says use only the author's name and a keyword from the title and the page number. So if I were to cite this same source again, I could just say Jones 152. Yeah.
Up in the previous one, under subscript, the second thing where it says in the note, that's the full citation.
You're right, thank you. I'm like, wait, this is the shortened one.
That's the shortened one.
This is the full one, thank you. I was like, this is the shortened one. This is the full one. So first time you use it, use the full one. Then use the shortened one. Author, little bit of title, page number. And then if you use it in a row, you can use this word IVID with just a page number. That tells me that this is from Jones. This is also from Jones. Now if I switch over and use a different source, I have to use all over again.
Yeah. And this is something you'll be using in college. You may, even for like an English class, you may have an English professor that's like, look, I want you to use footnotes. I mean, that's kind of the world that we live in, is that each professor is going to want you to do something. Some professors aren't going to care at all how you cite your paper as long as you're consistent. Like, that's just kind of the reality of it, so it's good to get practice. And then also, it's better to overuse more footnotes than to use less footnotes. So if you feel like, oh my God, I feel like every sentence I've got to do footnotes, that's better
Yes.
than not having enough footnotes and being Dr. plagiarizing. Like, because that's that.
And if you've got a whole paragraph, let's say you've got like a whole paragraph, it's 6 sentences long, and every sentence in the paragraph comes from like the same source. You're not gonna cite just the end of that paragraph. You're literally gonna cite every sentence within the paragraph, and you're gonna use this formatting. Does that make sense? Now, if you're really taking whole paragraphs from your sources, that's a different problem. So hopefully that's not happening, but.
Well, then also you guys have to remember that, like, say you got a chunk of you know, from primary source you've gotten, it's like a chunk of the speech, and you reference that speech in your paper. If you ever put in a sentence that's your own opinion, which you should be doing, that's part of making an argument, you need to make sure that when you go back to talking about that source again, you're citing that, okay? Anytime it's broken up, you need to make sure you're citing, okay? Like, it's one of those things where it's like you're gonna feel like you're citing every single sentence, and that's okay. Like, it's just kind of, it's one of those things you get used to.
So just to kind of remind you, you type in the word footnote and see what happens. Yeah. Okay, so this is like hard for you to see. Hold on a second. All right, so I showed you an example of like, here is my fact, right? And I've put it in quotation marks because I've taken it directly from my source. Obviously, if you take it word for word for word, it needs to be in quotation marks. And then all I did here, in fact, I'll delete my footnotes. You go to insert. Where am I going? We're going to insert a footnote. You click it, and look, I put a little number 1, and it jumped me down, and it wants me to type it in.
It makes it for you.
Yep.
The same thing if you're using Word, Word has the exact same feature. The first time I used footnotes, I put them all in myself manually. It was awful. I didn't even know there was a feature that you allowed you to do footnotes for you.
And watch this. I've got my footnote 1, my footnote 2, because it does it for you, it will also fix it for you. Cut that out and put it in front of the other one.
Like this?
Mhm.
Oh, no. Here, can you back up?
Oh no, I want you to paste it right there.
I just deleted it.
Oh.
I didn't delete it.
I mean,
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, cut it and then paste it in front of the other one. Look what it did. It renumbered it. It changed the order of the numbers for you, and it changed it down here to match. Yes,
So how do you number it in the first place?
it does it for you.
Yeah.
When you go up here to insert, and you click insert footnote, wherever your cursor is, it will automatically put a number and give you a number at the bottom that matches.
Yeah, and it's Control Alt F.
yeah, I
It's-
remember using, after a certain while, I was just control that.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's one of those things where it's weird the first time you use footnotes, and then you really can't go back.
You use too many of them, so you don't use it.
Like, it's honestly
Let me say
footnotes,
one more thing before you run.
footnotes are great.
Alright, if you need more help with that, I will help you, okay? All you've gotta do is email me or Mr. K and be like, hey, I did not catch that whole footnote thing. Can you help? The answer is yes. Upcoming deadlines. Make a writing conference with me. That is your most important priority. Keep in mind, however, that you also have a library log that is coming up due. I don't remember when it's due. Thank you, February
what?
16th. I was
Oh,
gonna say, that's what I wrote.
yeah, I forgot you changed it. It was January 22nd.
That's right, I moved it back so that it's due the same day as your final paper. You have a mentor meeting due. Some of you have forgotten that this assignment even exists. It's very, very easy, it's in Google Classroom and it has been all along. If it's not, please tell me so I can put it there. Please look, I'm gonna feel really dumb if it's not, but that has happened.
How do I search for that?
A mentor meeting simply means that you had someone else read and check your paper besides Mr. K and myself. Some other adult that signs off on it. A teacher, a parent,
My parents can't do that.
What is that?
that is also due February 16th. Because the hope is that you're having some other adult check your paper right before you turn it in, just to have a third set of eyes. I suggest an English teacher, a librarian, somebody good at research, a parent, an older sibling that is currently enrolled in a four-year university.
No, he's
You got some options here.
all my siblings are dumb.
It's an announcement.
It's an announcement, so I need to actually put the document there for you. All right, I will do that.
One thing, do you guys know how to edit quotes? So that if you got a really long quote, you just want the first sentence of the quote and the last sentence of the quote, how to,
Brackets.
right, yeah. And then if there's a word that you wanna change in that quote, use brackets.
Square,
Okay.
the square one,
So if the
yes.
quote mentions it, and you wanna change it to like the window or whatever, you put in quotes, the window where it would be, okay?
Yes, thank you, I forgot to mention that.
I am just trying to remember it.
Not quotes, brackets.
I know it's a lot, guys. Use the example papers, they will help you. Google everything. Do you know how I found the footnotes things? 20 minutes before this class, I Googled, how do you do footnotes in Chicago style? You don't have to wait for me to find it. You can find it.
Another question.
There you go.
Where do you go to National History Day to learn how to put footnotes?
Well, I took these notes off the internet and I actually put them, they're in your Google Classroom,
Oh, there.
so they're right here.
Okay.
But if you go, I haven't looked around on this new website, but if you go to For Students,
How